What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It is a post-match pint here from Malone's Bar. A busy Malone's Bar. Apparently there was rugby on. We're here to talk about Celtic 3, Hibs 1 at Celtic Park. I've got Kenny with me to go over the game. Kenny, that's not exactly the day I had in mind when I woke up this morning. Got a lot more than I bargained for out of that game. It was tense, it was quite dramatic. So many stoppages, injuries, red cards, VAR interventions, penalties. Wasn't the most straightforward day of the season, was it?
No, dramatic's the right word. I mean, when we came out of the traps, I thought we started with a nice shape. Jota was liking up well with Alistair Johnston. Maeda looked up for it. When he's up for it and he's on the ball, you know you're usually in for a decent afternoon. But I guess the first piece of drama was the Tata taking down with his hammy. I mean, that we can sit back here and be pleased about a victory, but that's something that could be a bit more damaging long term. I just hope that Rio's okay, because although we've got such a good squad, there's not many Rio Hatatis in that squad, right? I mean, he is unique. When somebody gets down with a hammy off the ball, it could mean they're back the next week, it could mean they're out for the season. A scam will decide that. But that was a big moment in the game. They go down to 10 men and you're thinking, well, this should be a relatively easy afternoon, but the penalty, I never really saw it properly in real time because it was quite subtle. By all accounts it was a penalty, but VAR was never going to let us away with anything subtle, was it? I mean, it picks up everything when Celtic are against it would appear. Starfelt, that's the difference between Starfelt and Carter-Vickers. They're both quality centre-halves, and Starfelt should be in the team, but he's got an error in him, and by all accounts, you know, it was a penalty, and he's pulled on there. But we were playing, the first half it just became a bit of a frustration, in that when Turnbull comes on, I think Matt O'Reilly's a man now that is devoid of confidence. I do think Matt is in a position now where we're not getting the output from him that we did last season, even close to that level, coupled with Turnbull, who's a bit out of form, and I think is starting to show signs also of struggling with the system. That meant that we couldn't unpick Hibs in front of goal. We were forced wide. They were happy for us to go wide because they were playing so deep and narrow that they could quite comfortably sort of defend balls really deep. I was surprised by how deep Hibs were, actually, given the league position. And even when they went to 10 men, sometimes when you go against 10 men and the team are playing really deep, it doesn't actually make much of a difference. And in that case, I think it just sort of entrenched their position more. Okay, they were playing with 5 and 4, they were now playing with 5 and 3. It might have gave Turnbull and O'Reilly a little bit more space. It wasn't going to give Kyogo any more space. No. But because Turnbull and O'Reilly were ineffective, really, it didn't change the shape of the game. And then into the second half, you're just relying on a moment, because we get into a rut again. We were in a poor pattern of play. I didn't think when we started the second half that we were cutting them open in a free-flowing way whereby I was confident we're going to break them down. So it was nice to get that penalty, just to get us back on level terms. Even beyond that, again, they were just happy to get the ball wide, happy for us to have it wide. And we tried a lot of substitutions, trying to mix it up, playing Kyogo actually a little bit deeper than normal, I assume, to try and bring some creativity in the 10, but yeah. None of it really worked, other than I'm so delighted for O. Brilliant when it matters. That's how Giacomakis made his name for Celtic. Games like that, coming off the bench when the games are on the line and you need a physical presence because it's got stuffy, and he stepped up there, he's just bullied his way into winning that game. So look, delighted with it. You're 9 points clear, 9 to go. Always think when you get to a position whereby the amount of games to go is no greater than the points you are ahead, you've got a real stranglehold in the title. So they're ultimately delighted, but yeah, a dramatic afternoon.
Aye, absolutely. I think Hatate going off was a big blow for us. He's so important in terms of linking the play from back to front, and he's been in excellent form. But I think today we also missed Aaron Moy. He was not included today because he's obviously a bit sore, he's injured. And I think we really did miss his influence. He's been excellent, particularly post-World Cup. And as you say, O'Reilly does seem a wee bit devoid of confidence. He's been out the team for a period. But I just felt like we never really got going, as you say. You're so used to, and we've become accustomed to this season, almost turning up and wondering how many goals we'll win by. And seeing that fast, free-flowing attacking play, like in between full-backs and centre-halves, getting low balls across, chance after chance, cutting teams open, but it didn't happen for us today. And I think you have to give Hibs credit for that. Obviously, they go down to 10 men, 2 yellow cards for Ellie Ewan, I think it is, and then obviously that changes the game, and you think, well, now it should be easier for us. We should be able to cut them open. But to their credit, they did defend. They did defend well. They defended particularly the centre of the pitch well. And as you say, I think we did get into a wee bit of rut at times, going wide, but it wasn't really happening for us. I mean, I think the only real chance I remember, David Marshall had a few excellent saves in the first half. One from Kyogo. I don't know if he almost went to chest it in.
I thought he should maybe header that. I'd need to see it again. I think he did chest it. It was a good save, but maybe that was the right thing to do. I'd need to see it again. But look, at the time I thought, if he gets a head on that, he's buried it.
But, I mean, we're just fearing. I was fearing, I don't know about you, David Marshall with 2 or 3 saves, just thinking, don't have one of these days. You know what I mean, against us. Starfelt hit the bar from a corner in the first half, and as we go on to talk about the second half, corners were a big area for us today in terms of the goals that we ended up getting. But I just felt like we were missing something in that attacking play. And listen, we can't expect a team to play in top gear going forward every single week of the season. We were sublime at Tynecastle last week. From the word go, we were in top gear, pinned Hearts back, and that didn't happen today. But I did feel like we were just missing something, and I think Hatate's injury was part of that, but I also think we missed Aaron Moy.
We did, no doubt. I mean, I think we managed ourselves to peak at Tynecastle, and it was superb. You're never going to play at that level every week, and I think it was in the central area. Matt O'Reilly, he's actually come out and been brave enough to say that there's some stuff off the park that's affected him this season. And we don't know what that is, we don't need to know what that is, but for him to say that, it must be meaningful, right? Because he has dropped a level. I mean, there's no point in dancing around that. He's still got a lovely presence, Matt. When he picks the ball up, you still sense that he's an important part of the squad, but it's those killer passes are missing. When he's getting the ball in the final third, at those key moments to split a defence or cut the ball back, that's where he's fallen down. I don't know what his assists are. I know his goals his goal rate is really bad, but it's not. You can just sense within him that he's a man that is devoid of confidence at the moment. I've no doubt, based on the strength of what he did last season, he's still going to be an incredible asset for Celtic, but he's not kicked on. And I think that coupled with Turnbull, who just seems a bit, he's great when he runs a sub-Turnbull, scoring for distance, looking tidy, but when he plays a meaningful part in a game like that, he's just not quite at the level we need, I believe now, in terms of the speed of his play and the speed of his mind.
Yeah, I think from open play, he took a while to adjust to the game today, I thought, Turnbull, but I think he did improve in the second half. And he was key for us. He, from a dead ball, and at the corner he swings in the cross for O's header that puts us in front. But just on Matt O'Reilly, I think the thing we have to remember, and it's easy to forget, is that he's only 20 years
from
old.
MK Dons.
MK Dons. He's not played a lot of full professional first team football seasons, and he came in last season and was excellent from January forward, but it's sometimes difficult to remember just how young he is. And he's going to have periods like that in his career, particularly coming to a club like Celtic where you don't really get any free weeks. You don't have weeks where you can be off it. Like, you have to be at the top of your game all the time. So that's going to happen from time to time. I think Kyogo did struggle we struggled to get service to Kyogo, right? Obviously he dropped deeper when O came on in the second half, but I just felt like we weren't, the patterns we've been used to seeing in recent weeks weren't quite there. The VAR decisions, I think Starfelt, I didn't see it at the game, but the guy sitting next to me, Davey, he noticed it straight away, and he was like, Starfelt's pulled a jersey there, I think they're going to look at this, and they did, and they gave a penalty. I thought today the communication on VAR was really bad though. I feel like at Celtic Park, when I've experienced it, it's quite immediate, the announcement from the stadium announcer to say the VAR check for whatever. I thought today that was quite slow, and Callum's referenced this, he's sitting up the other end of the pitch, so he didn't even see anything before the Hibs penalty. And so I think a lot of fans are like, what's happening here? They don't really know what the status is, and it's taken 2 or 3 minutes. There was 8 minutes added in the first half.
I know.
I mean, that's ludicrous.
I just find it confusing. I mean, when the ball, typically now when a ball goes through, and when it appears when the officials believe someone's offside or there's an infringement, they won't give it because they'll just wait and use VAR as some sort of safeguard. But then equally, they gave us a penalty when Abada was right through and just blew up and gave the penalty. Did the opposite, didn't use VAR. And then that creates this drama where they need to go and reverse their decision. So there seems to be an inconsistency in the way that they apply the technology in terms of using it as a contingency or just making a decision. I mean, it's really difficult. It's hard to come through a game like that and sit back and think the VAR's improved the fan experience, improved the accuracy of how a game is officiated. Because, and I would have thought by now they would have improved that. When they brought it into England, it was all over the shop, but then it improved to be quite efficient. When they brought in the Champions League, it wasn't quite as bad. It was well managed, but it's got to a point now where it just sits in the background. You don't really know it's there. In Scotland, it just seems to be
front and centre
of everything, and you could forgive that immediately. But we're now coming towards the end of the majority of a season with it, and it's no better. Maybe it's the value they've spent. It's cheaper technology, right? They've only got a fraction of the cameras that a sort of high-profile system has. They need to address that. They need to put more money into it if the technology is leading to the experience that you and I have just had watching that game, because it's a riot at times. It really is.
I think in the end, the decisions were right today. I don't know how much you've seen of our penalty. Again, I think that's a Turnbull corner. And Carter-Vickers looks like he's hauled to the ground. Again, I've only seen it once live. I haven't seen it back, but I said in the full time, you need to foul Carter-Vickers to get him on the ground because he's a big unit. That levelled it up. Jota steps up to take it. Aaron Moyes out.
It's probably the worst penalty I've ever seen hit the net. The Celtic. I mean, David Marshall was looking in good form, but it's rare that a goalkeeper would be disappointed at a penalty, but that was poor. It did get us back in the game, and again, I think you're just expecting then maybe the floodgates to open because we're back level. They've got 10 men, but again, it didn't quite happen, and that's probably credit to how they were defending. But we introduced subs into the game. Abada came on, and I think Abada, he gives us, if he didn't assist or score today, he gives a bit of urgency because he's so direct, and I think that did help us a wee bit because we need a bit of urgency in the game. We haven't had many games this season where we've been in a bit of a rut and we're locked at 1-1, or it was 1-0 for quite a while today. We haven't had that quite so often, so it's good that we can inject that freshness, and I think Abada did give us a wee bit of impetus. I mean, there's like a pattern now where Abada, he's so effective as a sub, everyone calls for him to start, which is sensible. Then he starts, and he didn't quite get the same impact from him. He's like a Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, right? He's just a brilliant sub. And the same thing happened today because he's so direct and he doesn't mess about. If you are in a bit of a rut, it's perfect because their defenders need to think. They really need to think. And Alistair Johnson loves playing with him because Alistair Johnson is great at sending balls. He's clever, Alistair Johnson. He'll adjust his game. When he saw that Abada come on, he was sending lovely balls in behind that for Abada to run onto. And it does affect things. So, it's probably not what Leo would want to hear, but he does seem to be more of an effective sub than a starting player, which probably isn't good for him long term because he won't like being a sub and he'll leave. But we need to manage that. But in the short term, he's so effective when he comes on for these cameos, Abada. Almost every time he changes a game.
Yeah, I thought Johnston today in the final third in crossing positions was quite poor, he's been really good in that area recently. I thought he was a wee bit hesitant at times in crossing positions, and that might have been a symptom of the fact that it wasn't working for us. We were getting down the side and swinging crosses in, but nothing was really coming of them. I think Jota today was important for us. He obviously equalised with the penalty, but he did constantly take the ball and try to make things happen. And again, while he didn't dribble past three players and stick it in the top corner, he constantly took the ball, and that you need that in these games where it's going to be stuffy. You're going to be up against it. You're locked at 1-1. You need your big players to stand up, and I thought Jota did that. He constantly took the ball and he tried to force the issue and make something happen.
Yeah, it's about his heart. I mean, the way he celebrated, you wouldn't have thought it was the worst penalty he'd ever hit, right? I mean, he looks like he's won the World Cup, but then he's getting the whole stadium up. He's gone round all three ends of the crowd to G them because he knows. He knows that a point's no use, and he knows that we've only got 30 minutes to fix it. So he cares and he understands. And you're right, he wanted the ball constantly. He wasn't having a whirlwind game, but he didn't care. He just wanted to have Celtic to win. He wanted Celtic to win, and he never had. He's been good this season, Jota. I mean, there's been times where he's been spectacular. There are some times where you think he's so talented, could he give us that in a bit more of a consistent way? But maybe that's been a bit harsh. He is one of our most talented players, and today he just showed real desire above almost everyone to get the points.
Yeah, absolutely. O comes on. I think his first touch is from a corner, great chance. He could maybe have got more on it to turn it goalwards. There's then a corner a couple of minutes later, which he also gets something on, and then he gets his goal. And I know he scored once against St Mirren at Celtic Park Scottish Cup, and then the penalty against St Mirren in the league. But that felt like an arrival today because it was a big goal and we needed it. And he came off the bench to dig us out, really. And he fights for it, he gets free, he holds the defender off, and he bullets a header into the bottom corner past David Marshall, who had a good game. And he loved the celebration, shut off, milked it a wee bit. But as I say, that felt like quite a big moment for him, and it felt like a real arrival in a Celtic shirt.
I mean, if I always pay attention to what the important people say about players. If you think of Joe Hart mentioned quite early on when he arrived that he thought there was a bit of magic in him. He thought there was something different about him in training. He had magic in his feet and he was a strong boy. When Joe Hart makes observations like that, they matter. Postecoglou's really been quite praiseful of him before today, but after the game, just read some quotes online, didn't manage to listen to it in the radio, but he's saying that he was delighted for him because he believes that there's so much, he could be a special player for the club. That's how highly he is rated. And that was a brilliant, I mean, okay, you can say it's from relatively short range, but for the ball was swung in there with 60,000 people breathing down your neck trying to get a victory, he absolutely battered that Hibs player. The Hibs guy was, I don't know what player it was, but he was mouthing off to the ref trying to get it VAR checked right up until kick-off, as if he get fouled. He didn't get fouled, he get bullied. Yeah. And it was a bullet header. And as you say, throwing his strip off, running into the crowd, that's brilliant. Well, why would you want to quash that? Okay, you get a yellow card, but we've seen people like Ayeti, mild-mannered players that score and they're a bit of a prima donna. He's not a prima donna at all. He's just glad to be here and he's so hungry. And I do think he's got the key components to be pretty special for us. He's not... it's difficult to get someone with his physique. How many duds have we signed with his physique? Trying to get someone in that mould. I mean, I could list about a dozen. It's not easy to find them. He's got that physique. He can mix things up when you're drawn or you're getting beaten. You need someone to bring on. But he's also got brilliant feet. He does have brilliant feet. He can move the ball quickly. He can see things quickly. I've yet to see him sort of through on goal in a one-on-one with a sort of intricate finish. It'd be interesting to see if he's got that in his locker. But in terms of a bully, you always want a bully, and he is one.
Aye, I think that's a big moment for him today, that goal. Haksabanovic comes off the bench to great effect again. I know that when he came off the bench in his debut at Ross County, you thought we'd signed one of the best players in Europe. I knew that as soon as that ball broke to him on the edge of the box on his right foot, it was going to end up in the net. It was eerily reminiscent of his goal against Hearts, only this one finishes in the bottom corner rather than the top. But I think of all this, I point Callum in the full-time reaction, of all the wingers that we have, Maeda, Abada, Jota, James Forrest's a good finisher, to be fair, more than 100 goals for Celtic over the years, but injured currently and been on the fringes for the majority of this season. Haksabanovic is a finisher, and I think technically coming in on that right foot, I mean, it's frightening, the quality.
Haksa is one of the most technically gifted people in the entire squad. He's not got the pace, right? He's not got the blistering pace of a Maeda.
If he had pace, he'd be playing for Real Madrid.
Pace of an Abada. And he's a moody guy, right? So sometimes I think, well, yes, if he's not getting a game, is he just going to go in a huff? Postecoglou says he's one of the most committed guys in training. He says his training attitude is brilliant. I loved it when I heard Postecoglou say that, because hopefully there is a bit of longevity. It's difficult to keep all these people happy. Somebody of his quality could be playing as a starting player for a pretty high-profile side. Yeah. And when he comes on for us, he is. So he's a bit like Abada in that when he's had some starts this season, he's not quite fulfilled that same level of quality. But when he comes on in a game like that, he's deadly. His right foot finish there is just superb. And even the way he celebrates, he's into the fans. He's like, he loves it, So he's a really key part of the squad, Haksabanovic. Keeping him happy is probably going to be a challenge. There's a limit to how many 10 minutes he's going to accept. But look, that's a good problem to have, and he's a brilliant technician, Haksabanovic.
See, when he was warming up today, I think we'd made the 3 subs. O came on, Abada came on. I can't remember the third change that happened at that same. Bernabei came on for Taylor. That was it. That was the third one. And I watched him warming up, and he was warming up on his own because we'd made the rest of the subs. And I thought, I wonder what he's thinking, because Abada's on before him again, and you just wonder where his head's at. But yeah, again, as you say, and Postecoglou talks about his attitude, he comes in and he performs. He got on the ball as soon as he was on the pitch. He gets on the ball, he goes at defenders, he looks confident. There's no I talked about Turnbull adjusting to the game. I know this was later when Haksabanovic arrived, but there was none of that. He gets on the ball, he wants to make things happen, and he's got an abundance of technical quality. I think obviously he hasn't quite matched the impact as a sub when he started this season, but you need to remember he's not done any games. It's hard for these guys. Like, maybe if he'd had a run of 10 starts, you could say, all right, he doesn't match it when he starts, but when you get the odd start here and there, it's really difficult.
People can't get the ball off him. You rarely see a fullback tackle.
He's strong.
And when he usually picks the ball up, it's in tight conditions. It's in tight. He's not picking the ball up when he's busting through on goal. But it's in tight conditions. It's a bit easier to dispossess someone. Nobody gets the ball off Haksa. He is superb. Sometimes he overdoes it a wee bit, right? Yeah. Because it's like he's enjoying.
Loves to chop.
Yeah, it's like he knows no one can get it off him, so he might as well milk it, right? Which is a weakness, but. And he's not, he's got a lot to learn as well. He's a relatively young guy, but brilliant signing. Was it $1 million or something? 5-year deal? Just another outstanding bit of recruitment.
Aye, absolutely. We came through it, and I think that's the closest we've been in a while. I mean, every time, like this team, so often, even in the early part of this season, with the last-minute winners at like St Johnstone and stuff, you had times where you thought, "Is this it today? Are we going to drop points today?" This is the closest we've maybe came for a while. I think 80 minutes, you're still locked at 1-1, and as I say,
since Aberdeen, yeah. Like
since Aberdeen, yeah. Aye. The first game after the World Cup. But we found a way again. I think that's us matched Martin O'Neill's team for the longest run of league victories from the start of a season. I think it's the 15th or the 16th. I think it's the 15th home game. We've won them all, so 100% record at home. And as I say, we had to find a solution that we haven't been forced to so often this season. It's gotten really easy for us because the level the team's played at, but when we're up against it today in a difficult situation, we still found a way, and that is the hallmark of champions.
Yeah, their mindset is incredible. I'm sure there will be a point in time when you and I are sitting here and they haven't won, right? But I mean, it's how long has it been?
That's 14 wins in a row since Ibrox.
Yeah, and they're not all plain sailing. Okay, we've not had a late winner for a while, but we had one today. I mean, I was nervous at half-time. It's despite all of this, the league isn't won. That's the unusual thing. I mean, you would think at this point, if we were 17, 18 points clear, it's a different matter. The league is still on the line. They're only a defeat away from it being sort of, a bit more, credible title race. Yeah. So they're not just cruising through these games with a lot of freedom. They've got to win these games. And that is the hallmark of champions, and we've spoke about it so often that it's probably difficult to give you a different angle on it. But you've just got complete faith in everything they do. I was thinking to myself at half time when they were in there, how would they be feeling? I thought they'll be feeling calm. Postecoglou will be feeling calm because he's got trust in them, and they've got trust in one another. So yeah, look, the biggest travesty would be if they're deprived of a treble. All the work that they've done so far tells me right now that they absolutely deserve a treble. And hopefully we're in here celebrating a treble. But there's still a bit of work to be done. But the way we're headed, we're odds on to do that.
Aye, absolutely. The last point I want to get your thoughts on today is, you mentioned there 9 points clear, but maybe only one bad result away from maybe thinking there's a bit of jeopardy in it. And people are talking a lot recently about the standard in the rest of the league. Where do you think that's at? Because I don't really get the feeling that Rangers are going to drop points against anybody else either, because even though we feel like we're ahead of Rangers, and like we've seen it in the cup final, we turned up and performed and we won the game. We were dominant that day. You would think that would be the case, where we can turn up and play to our best level, but you don't really get the feeling. Rangers have been to Tynecastle, they've been to Easter Road recently, they were at Fir Park today. You don't really get the feeling that anybody else is going to take points from Rangers. To the same point, they probably feel that about us, but I do think this Celtic team is performing at an exceptionally high level, and that's reflected in the number of goals. We're going to smash through the goals record. We've dropped 5 points all season, 1 defeat, 1 draw. But where do you think the rest of the league in terms of standard is at?
I mean, you could probably compare it. I think the economics of football mean that the stronger teams are now the teams with a lot of resources are now a huge distance away from the teams with lesser resources. If you think about when Celtic were competitive in the Champions League, we'd be spending £6-7 million on players. The best teams in the world would be spending maybe £12-13 million on players. Now Celtic are still spending £6 or £7 million on players. The best teams in the world are spending 150 million, right? The economics of the game have polarised it so that the teams with money are so far ahead of the others that it becomes a bit repetitive. Now, I can't say that that's an exact dynamic within the Scottish game, but I think it is playing a part. The teams in Scotland beneath Celtic and Rangers, they've got nothing. They don't spend a penny on players. They don't have the money to even remotely compete with Celtic or Rangers. Now, that's always been the case, but I think it's heightened now. And I think it puts it in a position where the game might be becoming a bit more tedious for it. I mean, it's not... I watch a Rangers game for time to time. I think they're going to drop points because I'm invested in it, because I want Celtic to win the league. I don't really do that now because it doesn't feel like an event. So I don't think it's very healthy for the game.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's something we can really be critical of. I think it's just manifested itself as a result of the economics of the game. So, look, it doesn't matter. It's a bit frustrating when we are so far ahead of Rangers. Obviously, we're sitting Celtic Fans TV and say that, but it's the truth. But it's a bit frustrating when we're so far ahead that we don't just completely out of sight as we deserve to be. But that's out with our control. We can't think about that. We're 9 points clear. That's a big lead. I can see us being at least double figures before the end of the campaign. But yeah, it's a decent observation. It feels like the Scottish game has moved to a point where it was always a two-horse race, but it's now almost a two-horse race based on Celtic Rangers games alone.
Aye, I think that's a fair point. Last one on today before we round up. Man of the match, not as competitive, I don't think, as it has been at times this season, where we've had 6 or 7 candidates in many weeks. But can you single somebody out? We talked about Jota. Anybody else?
I mean, it was difficult. It was such a frustrating afternoon. There's no obvious candidate. I actually thought Alistair Johnson put in a good shift before you started slagging him, and that sort of unnerved my selection. I would just give it to O, because hopefully that's a pivotal moment in his career at Celtic. A young guy coming in, who's obviously desperate to please. He's not cost us a lot of money, but he's probably repaid all that money with that goal, because if he hadn't scored that goal, you might well be sat here saying we're 7 points clear, we might even be 6 points clear. We're not, we're 9 points clear. We've turned the screw on the title, and it's because he bullied somebody out the road as a young man with 60,000 people breathing down his neck to do a bullet header like that. And Giacomakis had moments like that brought him in. It was a bit of a coming of age, and he was an older person. This is a young guy who's come from a completely different part of the globe, and to set, I think that can really settle him. That's going to give him belief from the fans. He's going to feel that belief, and when you rip your shirt off like that and win the points for Celtic, it means a lot. So for a 21-year-old guy, I think that moment alone deserves man of the match in what was otherwise a drab occasion.
Excellent. There you go. That's it for post-match pint from a packed Malone's bar. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts on the game below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We will see you after the international break when Celtic go away to Ross County. Cheers.